Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Walters, to follow up on Representative Waltz's questions, I'm still a little confused about the messaging on what we're doing in Poland. A week ago, the National Security Advisor said we were doing no training. Then President Biden said we were. And then yesterday, a senior administration official said that U.S. troops help Ukrainian forces in Poland load weapons the West gives them. As they do so, they provide verbal instruction on how to use the weaponry like anti-aircraft missiles, but don't lead Ukrainian forces through physical drills. Very mixed messaging. It's confusing to all of us. Did anyone in the White House coordinate any of those statements with you as the Supreme Allied Commander in Europe?
No, Congressman.
Okay. Not asking you to elaborate in this setting specifically what we may or may not be doing with Ukrainian soldiers. I'll defer that to a classified session. What is your military advice on publicly talking specifically about how we train the Ukrainians?
Can you quantify that question? I'm having a hard time grasping what the question is.
Well, should we be talking publicly about what we're doing specifically on the ground, tactically, with our allies?
Not publicly, Congressman.
Thanks. So, General, I think we've witnessed a change in defensive tactics during this invasion of Ukraine that few really expected. We've all seen decimated Russian armor columns and the takedown of relatively sophisticated fighters by cheap and plentiful weapons. I know there'll be a lot for tacticians to chew on in our war colleges when the war ends, but it already looks clear that the 20th century tactics of mass land warfare aren't as effective today as they were when Eastern Europe was last invaded during World War II. Do you think the Ukrainian strategy of low-cost, high-volume kinetic weapons is a feasible strategy for future conflicts against competitor nations?
Congressman, I'm not familiar with all the parameters of the so-called Ukrainian strategy, but I will tell you that one of the things that makes a huge difference is what's in the heart of the citizens and their support for the military activities. And I think after this is all said and done, when we go back and take a look at what transpired, that is one of the areas that has made a big difference, certainly up to this point, and we still have a long ways to go.
Well, clearly, and we've all been just amazed at the tenacity of the Ukrainian fighters, and I think there's a lot to be said for the training that we've conducted side by side with those allies, not just the Ukrainians, and also the high impact of relatively low-cost things like drones, Stingers, Javelins. It doesn't matter how many tanks you have if they can be taken out pretty simply with low-tech weapons. Do you think the calculus of investing in high-value, high-tech, long build time systems will or should shift in the DoD to favor more nimble and expendable systems?
Congressman, I think that's going to be one of the areas that we have to take a deep look at, and that mixed with capabilities that are less elegant need to be factored into this discussion, and we have to be willing to listen very closely about what we've learned, and then we'll make adjustments.
Roger that. Finally, last question. Do you see the possibility of amending our current offensive and defensive strategies with the lessons we're learning in Ukraine, and if so, what might those look like? And I know it's early to be making those kinds of assessments.
I think we have to always be willing to adapt to change and listen to every possible input in every part of any conflict. And this is one of the areas that no matter how insignificant we think some issue may be, we've got to pay attention to it. And I think if we're a good learning organization, which the department certainly is, we'll take all that into account as we press forward. But yes, we have to learn from what unfolded in this particular conflict. We still have a long ways to go, though.
Roger that. Thank you, General. Now I yield back.